Hey Audio Fam, CJ here with Prodigy Creations. Today we're going to be talking about what mixing is and why you need it for your music. Mixing is a very crucial part in the music production phase for sure. And right now I have pulled up a 27 track rock song. These are actually multi tracks that I downloaded from online. There's a really cool website that has a bunch of different multi tracks spanning different genres that you can pick from. And if you're interested in checking this one out, I'll definitely make sure to put a link down below in the video description so that you can get some mixing practice in if you're interested. And so before we talk about mixing, first I just want to show you an audible comparison of what mixing is doing. So right now I have pulled up what I have mixed so far on this project. It's not 100% done, but it's getting pretty close. Good enough to share for now. And then what I'll do is I'll play a minute of the mixed version, and then I'll also pull up the unmixed version where I just literally dragged in the audio files into my software, did not touch them. And yeah, we'll play a minute of each. That way you can see, or that way you can hear what's going on, and then we can talk about it. So, this is my mixing session for this project so far. Let's take a listen.
Faccia a terra contro il fango, perdo i nervi con chi stavo gridando. Ho dei feriti da recuperare e i barrieri non si vogliono alzare. Questa è la guerra alla frontiera, contro i nemici quando si fa sera. Questa è la guerra alla frontiera, in una tregua qui nessuno ci spera.
And this is the unmixed version. Questa è la guerra alla frontiera, contro i nemici quando si fa sera. Questa è la guerra alla frontiera, in una tregua qui nessuno ci spera. So there you go. There's a little audible comparison between the two, between a mixed version of the song and an unmixed version. And hopefully you could tell that the mixed version is a lot more polished, I guess you could say. Everything sticks out more in the mix. In the unmixed version, if you go back and listen, I'm sure you can notice that the lead vocal was very buried beneath all of the other instruments that were taking up space. And so, mixing is all about balance, really. Just like when you're if you're cooking a recipe, that recipe has individual ingredients that combined make the recipe. And that's what mixing is too. Basically, it's kind of like cooking a recipe because each and every track within your music project you can think of as an ingredient. And it's just a matter of how much of that ingredient do you need to stand out in the mix. And so, yeah, mixing is all about balance because more often than not, whenever you record or produce a song, if you You got all your instruments lined up, production is done. If everything is set to 0 on the volume faders, more often than not, it's not going to sound good on its own. It takes effort to create space within the dynamic range, and yeah, just trying to find a happy medium between each and every track within the song. So obviously you do this through volume. You can see all of my faders have their each individual setting. So whenever I'm mixing, that's what I always go to first, is just focusing on volume. Because at the end of the day, that is what mixing is controlling volume. It's a lot more than that, obviously, but in a nutshell, that's pretty much what it is balancing volume and tone. And I balance the volume through the faders. So I'll just start really simple. I'll create a loop in Ableton, and you can see that it's looping the entire section. So whenever I'm mixing, I just keep it on a loop. That way I don't have to worry about stopping it and replaying it. It could just be a constant motion where I am doing nothing but touching the faders. But that's not all mixing is. There's a lot of elements to it. There's also what's called panning. And this is going to, here, let me just show you a Audible comparison now. We'll put on this kick on solo. So this is where you would adjust the panning. You wouldn't necessarily do this on a kick drum. This is not the best example, but just to give you a visualization of what this is doing. I can place this, right now it's dead center in the middle, meaning that it's playing from both speakers at the same level. But I could place it really wherever I want within the stereo image of the song. So again, kick will always be center. Well, I say always. You never know in music. Usually kick is in center. You could be creative with a kick if you want and pan it to the left or right somewhere, I guess. Typically, though, kick is centered. But that was just to give you an example. Panning is a huge part in mixing too. It can help create that space we're talking about. You want each instrument, each track to stick out how it needs to within the mix. And often the ways you can do that is by panning. I've got my drum room mics panned hard left and right. And you can also get creative by doing more of a V shape. These are my overheads. I've got one electric guitar just playing on the left side and the other on the right side. So there's more options there as well with panning. And the last thing I'll talk about is EQ. And this is where you would shape the tone of a certain element within your mix. So for instance, my electric guitars, not only do I have them panned hard left and right, and that's giving the guitars their own space. Electric guitar 1 is here, 2 is here. But I can further this separation of space with EQ. And if you don't know what EQ is, basically it's like if you're in your car and you're listening to music and you ever tweak your bass or treble settings, that's basically what an EQ is doing. It's the same thing. EQs and DAWs are a lot more advanced than that. But it's essentially, that's what an EQ is. You're just shaping the tone. If you want your bass to hit harder in your car, you would bump up the bass to 10. That's what I like to do. If you want more treble, make it sound more pretty, more shiny, you could do that as well. So that's what an EQ is doing. You're shaping the tone of how you want to hear a certain track. And so I will flip between both of these guitars so you can get a listen first. Skip to here. So as you can hear, each guitar, they are playing the same part, but they each have their own unique tone. And this was true before I added EQ too. That is kind of what inspired the EQ decisions. So on this track, if you look at the EQ, you can see I have boosted up here quite a few in the, what is that? 3. In the 1K range, I have a 7 dB boost. And, when I was listening back between these, I just felt that this track had more presence in the lower mids. And this one had more presence in the higher mids. So when I was EQing, let's just set this back to 0. Or no. When I was EQing, I was scanning through, just, listening to my ears telling me what sounded best. And I liked how 1K sounded on this particular guitar track, so I boosted it. And therefore, I went to the other guitar track and did just the opposite. I went to 1K and decreased it by almost as much, not quite 7 dB. And I did make what's called the Q narrower. So if we look back here, you can see the Q is very, very broad. A nice, generous boost to this frequency. But here, I did cut it so that the other guitar track could live in that space, but I didn't have quite as big of a Q. You can adjust that here. However much, it's all subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. But nonetheless, I usually use a smaller Q when I'm cutting. And yeah, I did the exact same thing on this one as well. You can see at 2, I had a boost at almost 3K, 2.9K. So I went back here, and as you can see, did the same thing here. Cut the part out that the other guitar was living in. So now each guitar not only is on their own channel, in other words, like this guitar is on the left channel, and this guitar is on the right channel. Not only do I have that going for me, but I also have the EQ going for me. They each have their own unique sound because of that. And yeah, there's way more to mixing than what I talked about today, but I just wanted to give you a generic understanding of what it is and, more importantly, what it's doing. Hopefully the audio test was a good representation of that. There's so much more I could go into with mixing. You have reverb, delay, compression, limiting. There's a lot. So I don't think we're going to get into all of that in this video. But if you do have any more mixing questions, definitely feel free to ask more questions down below, and I'll try to get back to you. Or if not, maybe if it's a good enough topic, I'll make a video exclusively about that. So yeah, that is basically it for today. If you are absolutely brand new to recording music, you are wanting to take a leap of faith by doing it, but you don't know where to start, I've got a free gift for you today, my friends. And I just want to thank you for taking time to watch this video today. So as a thank you, you can go ahead and go to prodigycreationsnow.com. And there you will see a button that says get the free guide for recording music. I have a free ebook called The Simple Guide to Recording Music Now in 5 Steps or Less, given to you by me absolutely free. All you got to do is click that button on the website. It'll lead you to a landing page where all you've got to do is enter in your email address, and within minutes you will be sent a free copy of my ebook to you. And this will be a very, very basic how-to on how to get started recording, producing music. It talks about the 5 key components you will need or less. And yeah, it's free. So go ahead and take it. It will add you to my email list, but if you need to unsubscribe later, I understand. No hard feelings. Go ahead and still take that free ebook. But that's it for today, friends. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check this out. There's more coming on the way, so stay tuned. Until then, thank you, my friends. See you next time.